Auction project, calculated columns. Building out calculated fields into the tables. Now earlier we had created our tables. We have 3 different tables now. We went through and gave them different names, each one of them, clicked in the table, went into table tools, and over on the left gave it a different name. Now we're going to do a little bit more with these tables. We're going to add some additional information into the tables that wasn't already in them in the first place. What we're going to use is a special function called concatenate. It's a big word for just adding text together into a single string or line of text. What I want to do is build out the lot description field on the lots page in I2. Now the easiest way to work with concatenate is, even though there's a function called concatenate, there's also the ampersand sign, the and sign there you see on the screen. This sign works just like the plus sign does for numbers, but for text, allowing us to add them together. To begin the formula, we do like all formulas. We click equals. Then click on the cell of F2. Now you'll notice here that since we're working on a table, it's not going to say F2, and this is something a little different. When we work with tables, you're going to see this structured reference pop up, and it's going to show inside of brackets an add around sign and then the word species. Now more on that later though. So click the and sign again, then a quotation mark, then a space, and then another quotation mark, and the ampersand again. Now what I'm doing here is I'm trying to add spaces in between the words. Otherwise, if I want to build a name that shows first name, last name, and I don't do the ampersand, quotation, space, quotation, ampersand again with the last name, I end up doing is putting it all jammed together into one large word. So we have to add the spaces in. Much like when we did a mail merge in Word, how you had to add the punctuation in and the spaces there and then between the city and the name, same thing here. Then we're going to click on B2, Bravo 2, and you'll notice that it also changes to another one of those structured references showing the tag number. So we're going to complete this one out now, creating the entire entry for the description on the lot areas. Now, don't worry too much about what you're seeing here with all the brackets and stuff. This is rather confusing looking on the screen. Just know we just have to click on things, then we use the and sign we want to add for the next part, and if you want to add spaces, the quotation marks with a space, and then the next and sign, and so forth. So notice here then, I've chosen species, then I added a space, then the tag number, then I added a little space and the word sire and a space again right in here. Then I went over and I added the sire from the list, then an ampersand, then a space from space, and the consigner. And look how that actually turns out on the end then. I now have one cell that's going to show swine, the ear notch numbers, the sex, sire, and where it's coming from. Now, since we're in a table, when we're done with all this, you hit enter, and you see what happens? It will copy it all the way down. Tables copy formulas and change them for each one of them working downwards. And we don't have to worry about locking pieces in. The formulas will be consistent. So what was with the strange addresses with the @ signs? These are the structured references. Now Excel handles formulas in tables differently. Instead of addressing the column header of A, B, C, and D, so forth, it doesn't use the letter, it uses the column heading that you chose earlier, the words you put in. Now the easiest way to work with these is to completely ignore them and just click on the cells. You don't have to worry about trying to type it that way, you just click on the cell. Now structured references also don't use the @ signs, which is nice when using lookups and so forth because it's just referencing by those words. It's like a named range in that type. Now if you type the cell address, it does work, it's just a little bit more difficult. And you can also type in the cell address of like C2 and that will also work. So don't focus on really being able to read them so much, just know what's happening and work with what's happening. So let's begin by creating this first one of these cells. In I2 on the lots page, I'm going to click in there and I'm going to begin with the equal sign. Now yours doesn't have to be exactly the same here. What we're looking for though is we want to bring in the species, the tag number, who the sire was, and who the consigner was. Now how you add the spaces, the order you put those in, that's up to you. So again, I'm going to begin by clicking on the species ones. I come over and take my mouse and just click on F2 here. There's the structured reference. Just ignore that, type the and sign. Now I wanted a space in here, so I'm going to put the quotation mark, space on my space bar, quotation mark, and another and sign. Now that's a lot of work just to get a space in there, but I can now move to the next one, which was the tag number. So I'll take the mouse and click on the tag number for the same line. Now make sure you're in the same line. Now the ampersand again. I'm going to put in a quotation mark, space, and this time I'm going to type a label of sire so they know what we're looking at. Maybe another space there, quotation mark, the ampersand. Now I'm thinking I need to put the word from, but I don't want the word from to be pushed up against the name of the sire. So again, quotation mark, space, from, maybe another space, close that one off with a quotation again, ampersand, and the last one, the consigner. So let's take a moment to look at this again. We have the species, then the and sign, we put a space. Then we have the tag number, space sire, space, ampersand, there's the from. Okay, let's see if we get it right. I'll hit enter. And there's the copying down part I mentioned. It already went all the way down. Now if I made a mistake, just change the first one. Maybe I decide I need to put in something in here between. Maybe little dots in after from instead. Put the quotation, enter, and notice it's changed all of them going down. So you don't have to worry about copying it down or being inconsistent going down. It will move the formula throughout. So you go ahead and do that too. Here again is the way I did it. And remember, you don't have to be exact, but we do want to get the species, the tag number, the sire, and the consigner in some format that looks legible. Now that we've built this new column in the table, let's add that information into some of our other sheets. So go to the sale worksheet, click in B2 where it says lot description, click the equal sign, then with your mouse go down on the tabs and click the lot page. Then go back on up and look for the lot description that we just created in I2, the first one. Click that, hit enter, and it will copy it down. So here I am on the sales page. I'm going to click in B2, the first item, hit the equal sign, with the mouse come down the lots, and click on the first item here, hit enter, and it copies it down. Now a word on this, because I'm trying to illustrate how to use the equal to bring things over, I'm doing it this way, but it's probably not the best way to pull this off, because if the other sheet changes, it may not match up this way. So ideally, you would probably want to use a VLOOKUP here and use the assign lot number and bring it over. And we'll be doing more of that later. But for now, the equal sign should be fine. Next, I'd like to create another one of these text formulas, but I want to include another function you haven't seen yet called proper. What proper is going to do is it's going to allow us to change the first letter to uppercase, the rest of it to lower, and then again for the next word, uppercase, the rest lower. And that way when people are doing data entry, if they're putting in all lower or a mix and so forth, we can have a consistent look then across the way. So to do this, we're going to start by selecting the buyer's worksheet. Then click in F1 to the right of the state column header. At the top of it, not in F2 where there's information, but right next to it over to the right a bit. Then we're going to type the word name and press enter. Now since you're right next to the table, it should automatically jump out and include it. Now in this new area, go down a little bit and in F2 input this formula, equals proper, and since it's a function there's always parentheses afterwards, and then we're just going to put these two together where we click on the first name, add a space, and then click on the last name, using the ampersands and the quotation marks. Notice the proper function changes the case of the first letter to being capitalized for each one of them. Just like this. I'm on the buyer's page. Scroll up to the top so I can find that first area. Here then in F1, I'm going to type the word name, or maybe full name. Enter. Notice it included it in. Now if it didn't include it in for some reason, if you go to the very bottom of the table, you'll see this little dot right there. You can click, hold, and drag that in and out to change the size of the table. Additionally, you can go to Table Tools, Design, hit Resize Table, and it just asks you how big it is and allows you to select it then. So now let's build a formula. I'm going to make this a little wider. Click that between the two, between F and G here. When the mouse cursor changes, click, hold, drag. So in F2, we type equal sign, the word proper, open parenthesis. Now I wanted first name, so I'm going to click on the first name. And I needed to add the space in, so ampersand, quotation mark, space, quotation mark, ampersand, last name. Now, a thing to keep in mind here is if they don't have a first name entered here, like in line 19 where it's Modesto Junior College, and they inputted the last name where they put the company name, it's going to have a little bit of a space then, the space we added, before the word Modesto Junior College there. So you might want to make sure that people put something in the first one and have some sort of practice set up where if it's just a company name, to put it as the first name. I hit enter, and it copied all the way down. And see the little space here? Now it's not that big a deal, so we can ignore it here, but keep in mind that that's what's causing that. In this case, we have the company in the first name, no space. Company in this last name, small space. There. So go ahead and do yours then. Now we're going to take it a little bit further, but first I'd like you to go to the lots worksheet, and to the far right then add 2 more columns, sold to and final bidder. So I will switch over, go to the lots one, scroll up, we'll type sold to, enter, notice it's included in, and final bidder, enter. There, so we've added 2 more columns. Let's make these a little bit wider. There, perfect.